How's it going? Thad Brown here with you on the Endgame. This is, of course, Rochester First, the kids, the cool ones. They all call it Rock One. Big news today. We are red alert in the studio because the Bills have made a monster trade, adding DJ Moore from the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk all about that, contract implications, what we think of the compensation, what DJ Moore can do for the Bills, what it might mean for the Bills when it comes to adding a receiver going forward. In addition, we'll also talk about the idea that the Bills should go all in, a la what the Rams have done lately. And one trade happened in Buffalo, one trade is not going to happen. We'll talk about the Colton Parayko fallout as well. Big day as always here on the Endgame. Happy to chat with you about it. And boy, this is exactly what NFL free agency and offseason is all about. What can your team do? What will they do? What ads will they make? And Brandon Beane, who said he's aggressive, is definitely being aggressive with this move, trading for DJ Moore. So my initial impression is I like this move. I think it makes some sense. There's a lot of different parts that go with this, but we'll start with the idea that DJ Moore is just a pretty good player. He's just a guy that is not elite. I don't think he's a dominant kind of all-inspiring, game-changing number one, but he's a professional, competent number one receiver. This is a guy that you can depend on in a number of ways. Number one, he's been healthy. He has not missed a game in the last 5 seasons, 17 games each of the last 5 years. I think his best trait now, watching him on film a little bit today, he knows how to get open. He knows how to find space. He's a guy that's a smooth route runner, but you can see watching him on film, this is just a guy that's comfortable in what he can do. He knows where to be. He knows what to do. He knows how to exploit defensive backs. He knows how to create separation. He's just a smart, high-level receiver. And I don't think he's going to be physically dominant, but I think he's got more than enough physical ability to take advantage of all that brain power. He can get where he needs to go, and he can do what he needs to do. Tracks the ball deep down the field real well, too. Don't overlook that. He's going to be a threat at all 3 levels. He's a guy that can take a screen and create problems. He's a guy that can be dangerous in the intermediate part of the field. And he's a guy that can get down the field and make plays. Now, again, I don't think he's elite, but he does so many things well. Another thing that I liked watching him on film, he's pretty good in a scramble drill. Got plenty of practice with that the last couple of years with Caleb Williams. That'll 100% be a big part of what the Bills want him to do in Buffalo. So he knows where to be. He knows what to do. He knows where to go. He is going to be the kind of guy that will take your receiver room and settle it down immediately. There won't be questions on what DJ Moore is doing, I don't think. You'll have the elite number one, maybe not elite, but you will have the number one receiver position settled. And then on top of that, what it'll do is it'll move everyone else into a more acceptable role. Khalil Shakir now will not have to be the guy you count on as the best receiver on the team. Josh Palmer can, if the Bills hold on to him, I don't see any reason why they won't, will be a guy that can just settle into being a supporting player again. Dalton Kincaid is a guy that won't have to be relied upon as the only top-end target. Now, DJ Moore can be another one. So in so many ways, I think Moore, not just by showing up on his own, but by helping out what everybody else can do, makes this Bills team and this Bills passing game a whole lot better. And like I said, he hasn't missed a game in 5 years. And he's been productive for most of his career. 96 catches in 2023, 98 in 2024. Last year, not quite the same season. 50 receptions, 682 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's not a guy that you want as your number one, what he did last year. But I still think that there is enough ability and enough comfortability for Moore to walk in and certainly upgrade the Bills receiving room. It was going to be hard to not make the Bills receiving room better. But DJ Moore, I think 100% will be doing that. Now, that's the good side of this. the flip side of it is, like I said, I don't think he's a guy that's going to dominate physically. This is not someone that's going to out jump anyone. He's not going to moss guys with his size. He's a 6-foot receiver. He's not a giant player. He's got NFL size, no doubt. He's not deficient anywhere, but he's not going to dominate physically in terms of at the catch point. He's also not going to run away from guys at this point in his career. So he's not. So this isn't like Stephon Diggs in terms of a separator either. So keep in mind what the Bills are getting with DJ Moore. He's 28 years old right now. He'll be 29 in April. That's still fine. Receivers under 30 should, and most of the time are, just fine in terms of what they can do. Probably not elite 26, 25-year-old stuff, but still really, really good. It's that next year when you turn 30, the guys, Amari Cooper, fell off a cliff at age 30. Stephon Diggs has been pretty good, but wasn't quite the same level his last couple years in his 30s as he was when he was with Buffalo. So I think the Bills have two, at least one, probably two solid-ish years of DJ Moore where he's kind of nipping at the back end of his prime. As for the trade compensation, Bills are going to send out a second rounder, get a fifth rounder back. Ironically, it's almost identical to what the Bills got in the Stephon Diggs trade. In that trade, they received the second rounder and sent out a fifth and a sixth. So DJ Moore did cost a little more than Stephon Diggs did. Now, behavior was an issue. You know, when the Bills are trading away Stephon Diggs and taking on that big dead cap hit, I'm sure there was understanding on the other side from Houston that, well, you must be really interested in getting rid of this player if you're going to take on that dead cap hit. So that may have played into the trade compensation a little bit. Financials do too. And although the Bills are going to initially take on a $24 million cap hit to bring DJ Moore in, they can easily restructure that thing and turn it into a $7 million cap hit this year. I'll get to the contract stuff in a minute. But in terms of the trade value, so second for a fifth, you want to compare that to other big name receiver trades of late? When the Jets got Devontae Adams from the Raiders midseason, they paid a third round pick for him. So you're not getting him for a full year there, but it was only a third round pick. No trade going back. It was just a straight up third. Again, when the Bills did the Diggs trade, it was a 2 for a 5 and a 6. So the Bills are paying a pretty premium price here to grab DJ Moore. And to make that work, you can't get 50 catches for 580 or for 682 like he had last year. They want more out of that guy. Now, I still think this offense is going to be one that spreads it around quite a bit. They're not going to sit here and say, we're bringing in DJ Moore to rely on him as a elite number one that's going to get 150 targets. But you want more than 50 catches for 682. As for the contract, so the Bills will take on that $24 million cap hit initially, but then they can restructure it, push some of that money down the line, and reduce that cap hit to something in the $7 to $8 million range, which they can handle. They have to create some room to open up the $24 million to take on the cap hit initially. So the Josh Allen contract restructure, which happens every year, still hasn't happened yet. So the Bills have that lever they can pull. Dawson Knox with his $9 million cap hit, $9 million that could be saved by being released, will probably create some sort of relief, whether it's by Knox taking a lesser contract or whether the Bills just part ways with him. I don't think that'll happen, but one way or another, the Bills could get some relief there. The Bills can cut Curtis Samuel, create $6 million in space. They could restructure Ed Oliver, get another $8 million. So there's ways to create that $24 million in space that you need to bring in DJ Moore. And then you restructure him, you save yourself 16, 17 mil. Now you can spend that money somewhere else. So in terms of this year, grabbing DJ Moore is not an onerous financial situation. It's something the Bills can certainly handle. Now, there's a report that the Bills, to do this deal or in the process of doing this deal, have guaranteed $15 million of DJ Moore's contract in 2028. So that's 3 seasons down the road. That to me makes this deal a little less palatable. Because like we said, DJ Moore is going to be 29 this year. He's coming off a season where he already showed a noticeable decrease in production, which may be nothing. It was a new coach. The Bears have added in new players. Colston Loveland, Luther Burden were rookie players. There are a number of reasons why DJ Moore only caught 50 balls last year. It doesn't have to be that the player itself is in decline. But when you see 96 catches, 98 catches, 50 catches, that's certainly a red or yellowish flag. So if that is the case, and there is some decline happening already, for the Bills to put themselves on the hook for money 3 years down the road is highly questionable. More likely than not, DJ Moore is going to be a 2-year player in Buffalo. It's not impossible that maybe he ages gracefully and in his year 31 season, he's still productive. Maybe he's a third or fourth receiver. Even then, whatever his cap hit would be, it's most likely something that won't be worth what you're getting out of a 31-year-old receiver. But sitting here right now, coming off a season where his production already significantly declined, that is not a bet I would be willing to make, that 2028 is still something that, or well, DJ Moore will still have something the Bills will want to take advantage of at the price that he will probably cost then. So I'm not a huge fan of that part of the deal. But for this year, for sure, and into next year, it's sensible enough financially that this is not going to break the Bills. This is fine. And again, when you're getting a guy that just settles down the receiver room, I think this makes a lot of sense. Now, I think beyond DJ Moore here, what does this mean for the Bills in terms of the rest of the receiver room or what they do with the rest of their offseason at receiver? And I think that they shouldn't stop with DJ Moore because, look, the game-changing receiver, the drop one guy in and have everything fixed, the Jamar Chase type, was probably not coming to Buffalo if he was available at all. And really the only receiver that might have been available who fit that category was A.J. Brown. And as we talked about on this show and on BKL Nightly, I don't know if A.J. Brown was really going to be getting out of Philadelphia anytime soon. The rumors are the Eagles want a first and a second rounder for him. And I don't think that's because they want to keep him that bad or they value the player that bad by itself. Remember, A.J. Brown will add $20 million to the Eagles cap if they trade him. So if you're Philly, the penalty for losing a good player and hurting your cap better be offset by some ridiculously high draft picks. So I think that equation altogether made it really hard to expect A.J. Brown to be available to anybody, let alone the Bills. Another guy who might have been in the game changer category was Jalen Waddle. But the Dolphins have seemed reluctant to trade in division, which you can understand. And I don't see why that would change now. I know that they're tearing it down to the studs. But at some point, you want to have good players in Miami. Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane are good players. Those are guys that even if you're tearing it down, if you're Miami, you don't want to part with. And again, why would you want to part with them inside the division? So the one swing and everything's fixed, the Stephon Diggs trade, that move I don't think was available to the Bills this year. They had their choice of a trade like this, the DJ Moore kind of trade. Maybe you roll the dice with Marvin Harrison was a suggestion. I didn't think that was very likely. But that level of trade where you take a guy who's fallen out of favor and you hope he rebounds with your team, those were the kind of deals that were available to the Bills. And this is one of those deals. DJ Moore, again, had 50 catches last year. Maybe he was nursing an injury. Like we said, he hasn't missed a game in 5 years. It doesn't mean he never got hurt. This means he's probably a pretty tough guy that plays through a lot of things. Was last year one of those years? He did suffer a groin injury in October. Could that have been hurting him all year? I don't think so. From watching him on film, I don't sit there and say, wow, this looks like a guy who's not moving as well. Maybe. Is it possible that with Ben Johnson in for year one, that the scheme changed, that DJ Moore wasn't as involved? I think that's a distinct possibility, but if you want to throw that argument at me, I'm going to come back with Ben Johnson's pretty smart. Why didn't he want to get the ball to DJ Moore more? Is it because Luther Burden was that good? I don't think so. Luther Burden was a bit player most of the season. Is it because Rome Odunze was that good? Early in the year, yeah, but he had injury issues and was mostly a non-factor the last 2+ months of the season. Colston Loveland looks like a great tight end. He was a non-factor the first 2 months of the season. So if you want to sell me on the scheme was different, okay, but it certainly seemed like the scheme worked in general. That team had a really nice run, won a bunch of games. Caleb Williams damn near threw for 4,000 yards. The scheme seemed to work. So if DJ Moore was not a part of it, that to me seems more like a DJ Moore problem than a scheme problem. So when we move forward with the Bills here and what the plan was probably not going to include a guy that was going to come in and fix everything by himself. It was going to have to be a quantity over quality approach. Doesn't mean you can't get quality. I think DJ Moore is a quality receiver, but he's not the kind of quality that can, again, fix it by himself. So now, what do the Bills do at receiver? Well, I think they can still go to free agency if they want to. There certainly are options out there. Romeo Dobbs, obviously, has been one people have talked about. Rashid Shaheed wouldn't be a terrible idea right now to fit with what the Bills have with DJ Moore. But I think if you're already going to spend veteran money on a guy like DJ Moore, I don't think spending more veteran money, especially when you're going to be chasing in free agency for a limited group of receivers, makes the most sense. You could do it. Like I said, the Bills are going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of $17 to $20 million in cap room once all this stuff is all done. All the little levers the Bills are going to pull are all done being pulled. So there is space for Buffalo to go out there and add another free agent receiver. But that would not be my most sensible play. Especially because you do want to kind of build this a little bit. I think if you go out and sign somebody else big, that sounds like a we want to win right now kind of approach. And when you have a new coach and a new defensive coordinator and a new defensive system, I don't think the get it done right now approach makes the most sense. But you could do it. I wouldn't be against it. And there's certainly a variety of receivers down below the Dobbs, Shaheed category that might make a little more sense. And I don't know if the Bills want to do too many more lower level receivers. You kind of have that right now with, Josh Palmer now has become a third on your team. Khalil Shakir is not a supporting receiver, but they certainly have guys. So if you wanted to say, well, we're not going to grab a Dobbs or a Shaheed, but we can just get another guy. Well, the Bills have guys already. Let me flip through what else is here. I think Mike Evans, again, I know the Bills and Bills fans have talked about that. I think that idea is probably out now. Deebo Samuel, same thing. Darnell Mooney wouldn't be a terrible idea. He was just released by the Falcons, and SpotTrack has him valued at $7.5 million. That would not be a terrible idea to pair on this team. So De'Ami Brown, Tutu Atwell wouldn't be a terrible guy. So there are still options out there that I think would make sense to put on this Bills team. I think you do need a particular type of guy, though. DJ Moore is a guy that can be effective after the catch, that the Bears used with a number of screens, a number of times, just getting the ball to him quick and having him make something happen. Well, the Bills already have Khalil Shakir, who's excellent at that, and Dalton Kincaid, who can certainly be useful in that role as well. Now you got DJ Moore, too. I don't think the Bills want another one of those guys. I think the guy you want now is someone who works better down the field. Certainly a field stretcher would be nice. Moore can do that, but that's not necessarily his specialty right now, especially at soon to be age 29. Mooney, I think, can be a little more of that. Certainly Tutu Atwell has got some wheels. Who else? Shaheed would be great with that, but I think he's probably going to cost too much for the Bills. But again, there are options that Buffalo could take a swing at bringing in, and I think a more downfield type receiver is the type that would work. So if it's not going to be in free agency, well, what about the draft? Fortunately for Buffalo, this draft is so deep, they should be able to add someone else at receiver, and I think that is absolutely still a priority in this draft. Now, I don't know if I'd spend a first-round pick on receiver, because you've just essentially spent your second-round pick. I know you got a fifth back, and it was Good that I think Brandon Beane was able to make sure he didn't lose a draft pick altogether in this deal. He didn't just trade away a 2. He just dropped down in the draft 3 rounds from a 2 to a 5th. And with the Bills and Bears both being in the playoffs this past season, it's basically 3 whole rounds. But the Bills did just spend a high draft asset, or most of it, on a receiver. So spending another high draft asset on a receiver isn't the most ideal situation when you still have needs, certainly at edge rusher, potentially on the offensive line, potentially at safety, potentially at linebacker. Using your first and your second round picks on receiver isn't maybe the best way to go about it. Now, we'll see how the draft falls. If there is a receiver that's sticking out like a sore thumb at pick 26, I'd 100% be on board with taking that guy. But I think the bottom line is the Bills don't have to spend that first round pick on a receiver, especially because in this draft, receiver is so deep that you can spend a pick in round 3 and not be taking a guy that's all that much worse than what you would get in round 1. So this is not a situation where the Bills need to use that high-level asset, another one, to get another receiver. Wait till round 3. Wait till even round 4, maybe. But you still, if you're Buffalo, I think, need to get somebody else in the draft. I know a few people on X talked to me today about, do the Bills maybe trade up for a guy? One thing to keep in mind about this draft, this is a terrible trade-up draft. Maybe one of the worst in the last decade. There is very little high-level talent. As just like we said, there aren't many game changers that were going to be available in free agency or as a veteran for the Bills this year. Same thing goes for the guys in the draft. This is not the year where you want to be taking your first and your third and jumping from 26 up to like 18. You want to go the other way if you can. Now, like I said, it's a terrible trade-up draft, so getting somebody else to do it might be just as difficult, or might be really difficult. But in a world where the Bills could take that 26th pick and spin it into like a second rounder and a third rounder, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Almost regardless of who's on the board, because of what this draft looks like. Regardless, at some point, I think the Bills need to find their way into another receiver, likely in the draft. Now, who was going to be? Like we said, with DJ Moore and with Shakir and with Kincaid, you've kind of got 3 after the catch guys already. You really kind of have that role pretty much set. So I think that takes Buffalo out of like a KC Concepcion, a Zachariah Branch. I think you want more of a downfield, big-bodied ball winner type guy. Someone who's really, really good at the catch point. Again, in this draft, no problem there. You have a variety of receivers and a variety of flavors. There are a number of guys of all types, of all roles, and of all abilities. So if you're the Bills now, if you want to spend that first round pick on a receiver, Denzel Boston is certainly a guy that would be a good fit for this team. Chris Brazell, Malachi Fields, the Notre Dame player. There are plenty of big body guys. You want to go later in the draft? Chris Bell from Louisville. I know he's coming off an ACL, but a guy you could probably get below value if he were healthy. So maybe that's a third round pick for you, where he might, if he were healthy, be a high second rounder. There are plenty of guys for the Bills to chase after in this draft. I do think, though, bringing on Moore pushes it a little more towards that different type of player. It doesn't have to be that. I would be fascinated to see what an offense that has DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir, and KC Concepcion on the team at the same time looks like. Because now you could roll out a team where you put maybe Ty Johnson or James Cook on the field with Dalton Kincaid, where all 5 guys are a threat to grab a screen and go. And with DJ Moore, too, he's a solid blocker. I don't think he's great, but he's not going to hurt you there, and he's certainly willing to do it. There were a number of reps last year with the Bears where you saw him being willing to put his head down and get dirty in front of somebody else. DJ Moore is also generally regarded as a pretty good guy. I know that there were some body language questions coming off his 2024 season. Year 1 with Caleb Williams wasn't good for anybody in Chicago. And year 2 was much better. And that included DJ Moore. But I don't see any character concerns. Now, he does have a little bit of a legal issue in the background Nothing that seemed to be overly dangerous. But bottom line, DJ Moore seems like a good guy who would be willing to be a blocker for someone else. So you put him on the field with Dalton Kincaid and Casey Concepcion, in theory, and Khalil Shakir, and Ty Johnson. And you got 5 guys who are all dangerous on a screen. In the joke world, the parody world of the Bills offense, where Bills fans think that all Joe Brady wants to call are screens, this is like the dream group if they drafted a Concepcion type or a Zach Branch type. And in the NFL, I always think that you're better off trying to zig when everybody else is zagging. Do your own thing. Don't try and chase. I know they say it's a copycat league. I think copycats end up just falling behind. Yeah, you can try and do what's worked for somebody else, but it's working for somebody else because of the personnel and maybe because of the scheme ability that team has. Come up with your own thing. And is going all after the catch receivers the Bills thing? Maybe. Now, if I were building a roster, I wouldn't go that way. Like I said, I think this move pushes Buffalo a little more towards trying to find a downfield type receiver. But DJ Moore, I think overall, this is the right move for Buffalo right now. You're not spending so much that you're hurting what your long-term build would look like. And under a new coach and a new defensive coordinator, that needs to be a factor. You're not adding so much salary that it hamstrings you for the short term. Again, taking on money in 2028, that might be a little bit bothersome for me. But DJ Moore is going to settle this receiver room in such a way that it should make other guys around him more comfortable. He's going to be dependable. Again, hasn't missed a game in 5 seasons. He's going to know where to go, know where to be. He's not going to be deficient physically. Even if I don't think he's elite, he's going to be able to run all the routes, be effective and productive at every level, and he's going to be a guy that Josh Allen can turn to and say, I know where that guy is going to be, and I know he's doing the right thing. Is he a game changer? Probably not. But again, that guy was not going to be available to the Bills this year. What they did with trading for DJ Moore is sensible. It's helpful. It makes this team better immediately, but they can't be done. Brandon Beane still has more work to do when it comes to adding at receiver. All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk a little more about kind of where the Bills are at in terms of a team. And this wasn't the only big trade this week, right? The Rams went out and added Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs. And Bills fans kind of reacted with a little bit of frustration about why can't that be us? Well, there's a good reason why that can't be us. And I'll talk about that after a break. My name is Thad Brown. This is the Endgame. You are watching on a Thursday in March. It's called Rochester First, but the cool kids, they call it Rock One. And we'll be back talking more right after this. Thad Brown back with you on the Endgame here on a Thursday in March. About to be warm in Rochester. Very excited for that. Might actually even get a tea time in next week. We'll see how that goes. Won't be a tea time. It'll just be a roll up to the course. Say, are you open? Any chance I can play 9 holes? But either way, when we get close this time of year in Western New York, it's very exciting. Spent a couple days at the simulator recently. Simulators, by the way, one of the best inventions in terms of being able to mass produce it. And by mass produce it, I'm exaggerating a little bit. But in Rochester, New York, at least, you cannot throw a rock without hitting a golf simulator these days. And for those of us that have to endure 4 to 6 months of no golf at all, it has been a fantastic development. All right, speaking of developments, the Rams made a big trade this week, sending out 4 draft picks for Trent McDuffie to add to their corner room. And with the Rams, you always get the F them picks joke, and that this is a team that's actually traded away its first round pick. I think it's like 9 of the last 10 years. So they prefer to use those picks on veterans as much as possible. And considering how much the draft is a crapshoot, I totally get the theory. Why not take something that's assured, even if you have to pay them a few years sooner than shooting for the upside of a rookie pick? Now, you can argue it the other way too, because if you hit on that rookie pick, having that rookie pick who can play at a high level, but on a rookie contract for multiple years, certainly makes it a heck of a lot easier and a more valuable player. So while the Rams, if you're going to trade away those first picks, are kind of going high floor with their approach, it doesn't necessarily mean it's better than the high ceiling hope. And certainly when you hit that high ceiling, it's the best thing you can do when it comes to building an NFL roster. And the reaction in Western New York was, look at the Rams being aggressive. Why can't Brandon Beane ever be that team? Why can't the Bills ever use that approach? And I think what fans here in Western New York are missing is that the Rams have earned the right to do those things. That's not a decision entirely. That's not just an approach. It's not like Les Snead with the Rams just woke up one day and said, I'm going to trade 4 guys because I feel like it. The Rams can do that because of the roster they have built around the new player they're bringing in with McDuffie. And what I'm referring to is the Rams' ability to draft well, or at least their recent draft success. You look at what the Rams have right now in terms of players on rookie contracts. 5 of their front 7 starters are all on rookie contracts right now, highlighted by Jared Verse. They're not elite, but certainly high-level edge rusher. But they've got 2 other defensive linemen and 3 other defensive linemen, I take it back, and a linebacker who are also on rookie contracts. Now, with the Rams 3-4, Verse is technically listed as a linebacker, but he's really more of an edge rusher. Regardless, 5 of their front 7 are on rookie contracts. 6 on the defense in total. They have a safety that's also on a rookie contract. Not to mention, they have the best receiver in football, probably, in Puka Nacua, who's on a 5th-round rookie contract. Probably not for long, but at least for now, he's on a rookie contract. There are 2 offensive linemen on the Rams that are on rookie contracts. So their recent draft success is why they're able to F them picks and make a deal like the one they did for McDuffie, because they've kind of already built the less expensive baseline on their team. They've created margin for error to where you can add in bigger contracts because you're getting so much value out of the guys you've drafted. Compare that with the Bills. Who do the Bills have right now as a likely starter who's on a rookie contract, who's not on a second contract? It's Osiris Torrance, it's Dalton Kincaid, Cole Bishop, and Deion Walker. And that's it. That's all the Bills have right now in terms of rookies. 4 guys. 4 guys now who are on first contracts, first number 1 contracts, rookie contracts. And the Rams have more than that just in their front 7. So the reason the Rams are able to make the type of deal they did for McDuffie is because they've drafted so well. Now you can give away some picks, give away some of those lottery tickets, and bring on the sure thing. That's Trent McDuffie that you'll have to pay. Because, yeah, you might have a big quarterback contract, but the rest of your roster is pretty dang cheap right now. So you can add that. The Bills are not in that spot. The Bills just paid a number of guys on their defense. Both their tackles are on big contracts. Their center and their guard at this point are probably going to walk because they don't want to add any more big contracts to the offensive line. So this is not about Brandon Beane not being able to do something. This is about the Bills have not done well enough in the draft to be able to spend those picks, multiple picks, on a veteran player like the Rams did. And if the Bills were to do something like that, that's an easy way to crater your franchise. Because the more you chase veterans with draft picks, the harder it is to continue to win and be successful. And I know Josh Allen is the ultimate cheat code with that, but it is not impossible that if the Bills miss, if DJ Moore doesn't work out, let's say DJ Moore with the 50-catch season last year, that's actually a sign that he's on his way on the back end of his career down the mountain. And he's a 40 to 50 catch guy again for the Bills, or again this year for the Bills. If you're relying on that with maybe a third round rookie who doesn't exactly hit year one, you haven't done anything to your offense. And now you're stuck with a big receiver contract, not a gigantic one, but a bigger one for a receiver that's not producing. And you didn't have that second round pick that could have been your base of a roster to jettison you, to propel you going forward. You got to have those guys. You got to have those draft picks to make a roster work. Because just chasing after veteran on the back end of their careers, you're going to get more Amari Coopers than you're going to get Devontae Adams. So the Rams have done the work, have had the success that allows them to go out and get a player like Trent McDuffie, to trade away 4 picks and make that work. The Bills haven't done that. The Bills have to draft better. This is why the Bills end up in a situation where they don't have the high-end talent at the end of the year to win playoff games, in large part because you've missed on a lot of these picks. You've been good late in the draft. That's why the Bills have these deep, solid rosters. You keep finding fifth rounders that can start, and that's great. Everybody needs those. But the Bills have not been good enough in rounds 1, 2, and 3. You look at the Rams players, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Steve Avila. These are all first and second round guys who are not only starters, but high-level starters in your team. The Bills have Dalton Kincaid as a first rounder who's been fine when he's healthy, but he can't block. Keon Coleman, to this point, has been a total bust. Cole Bishop's been good. That was a hit. But the Bills don't have enough of them to turn around and say, we can give away a first, a third next year, a fifth, and a sixth to go get a corner. So the Rams have earned the right to be the Rams, essentially, by drafting as well as they have. And that's why when you have the big contract, one of the major complaints from Bills fans now is how Brandon Beane and Joe Brady always seem to mention that the Bills have a big quarterback contract and that causes them a problem. And yes, that is accurate. Having the big quarterback contract makes it harder for you to build a roster. But the thing that Bills fans are right about, that Joe Brady and Brandon Beane are not completely truthful with, is that the full story about why the Bills can't go out and do whatever aggressive move their fans want them to is because they have a big quarterback contract and they haven't drafted well enough. The Rams have the big quarterback contract, but they've drafted really well lately. And like I said, they have 6 on defense, 3 on offense. 9 of their 22 right now are on rookie contracts. That makes a team very flexible about how they can operate and allows the Rams to be the Rams and go out and make a 4-pick trade for Trent McDuffie. When the Bills have 4 guys on rookie deals out of 22, you have less flexibility and less ability to start dumping draft picks on veterans, to dump draft picks to trade up. So I know fans are frustrated in general with the number of near misses. And it feels like certainly Brandon Beane hasn't done enough right to make this a championship team. There's no hot take there. But just deciding to be more aggressive is not how this works. The Bills need to be better as a drafting team to give themselves the ability to go out and make the big move. Because if you're going to, like I said, chase veterans over and over and over with trades and free agent contracts, that's how you become the Saints. That's how you become the bad version of the Rams. So the Bills, at the end of the day, need to draft better. And drafting better opens up everything else. It creates the multiple year run the Chiefs just had. It creates the opening for the Rams to trade for Trent McDuffie. So yes, the quarterback contract is a problem for the Bills, but it's also about not being able to draft well, or at least not having success, enough of it, in the draft lately. Now, Buffalo today was 1 for 2 on trades. The other trade, the hockey trade, and the hockey team that's been really good, fell through. Colton Parayko, the Blues defenseman, who was, at least the trade was agreed to, Sabres and Blues, did a little while ago, or at least it was announced, that he was not going to waive his no-trade clause, so he will not be coming to Buffalo, which I think is unfortunate for the Sabres, because Parayko is a good player. I don't know if he's elite. It's always hard with a hockey defenseman who isn't ridiculous offensively to say that's an elite player. Just defensive first players never get thrown into the elite category. But this is a guy, as you can see, played for Team Canada, is really good defensively. And while he has 1 goal this year, he did score 16 times last year. So there's offensive ability. The book on him, I guess, is kind of, he plays the simple game. If the puck is on his stick, it's either going to be on net or out of the zone. He's not going to mess around, which I think makes some sense for a Sabres team where there's enough dazzling puck handlers to sink a ship. So I thought the Parayko move made a lot of sense. I mean, it's hard to sit here and with any hockey trade to say this puts a team over the top, but it absolutely would have helped. It would have made the Sabres better. So it's unfortunate that Parayko elected not to come to Buffalo. And I guess he said he would go other places, but Buffalo's not a place he wants to go. And I know Buffalo fan will be angry and bitter about why this guy said no. And I get that. We're all proud of where we're from. We're all proud of the places we call home. And we want everybody else to think the same thing about those places. And for whatever reason, Colton Parayko didn't want to come to Buffalo. And that's going to sting. But I will say that with these players, athletes, pro athletes in general, have so little control over their lifestyle, relatively. They can get traded on a whim. They can get released on a whim in most cases. Contracts in most situations, not baseball, but a lot of other places will favor the management, the ownership, not the player. So in a situation like this where you have a hockey player who is able to get a no-trade clause into his contract, and right off the bat, that should tell you that this is a guy that has decided that there are only certain places he wants to play. And he's 32 years old. He has done his time in the NHL. He has certainly reached the bar for where he has more say than a younger guy. Paid his dues, right? And if he's done that to the point where he can get a no-trade clause, and he has that in his contract, that should tell you right away, this is someone that wants a certain style of life. He wants to be in a certain part of the country. And I am never going to criticize a guy for wanting that. This is a job for these guys. For you and me watching, well, for me, it's a job. But the part of me that's a fan, that enjoys sports, being a fan is a hobby. Being a fan is something we do on the side. Being a fan is something we do to get away from work. For professional athletes, this is work. Having control of where you're going to live and where you're going to work, I think, is an important thing for all of us. So I'm not going to knock Colton Parayko for not waiving his no trade and not wanting to come to Buffalo. It's certainly not about winning, because there's zero about the Sabres as they are situated right now that says they can't win a Stanley Cup. But if he has decided that he doesn't want to live and work in Western New York or for this franchise for any number of reasons, if he has decided he just doesn't want to leave maybe the region of the world he's in, I don't know what it is. But I will never knock a player for doing that, because for them, this is a job. This is their livelihood. And Parayko should have control, especially when he's already asked for that control and it's been granted to him by his current employer. Then if he wants to make use of that control and make use of that no trade clause to where he doesn't have to go to Buffalo, I'm not going to knock him for it. It's unfortunate for the Sabres. Frankly, it might be unfortunate for the Blues, because it seemed like Buffalo is paying a pretty solid price and redeem Merker in a first-round pick to get Parayko. But this guy's right. And like I said, athletes in general, live such a nomadic lifestyle, have in some cases less rights than the rest of us. Obviously, there are benefits and the pay is ridiculous. There are things athletes get. I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for an athlete that gets traded because of how they're compensated. But in this case, if you have an athlete who has been able to have a team agree to put a no trade clause in, because again, this hurts the Blues. They wanted to make this trade. They thought this trade was good for them. And Parayko shot it down. I don't think it's unfair. I don't think it's unreasonable that a player does that. Even if, obviously for Sabres fans and for a team that I think would have been better by adding this kind of player, this veteran playoff experienced defenseman, I have no problem with him saying no to the Sabres. This is his right. He's earned that right. And if he wants to make good on that, that's fine with me. I think the good thing, if you're a Sabres fan, is this certainly shows this team is not going to be afraid to go out there and chase something that they think can make them better down the stretch. Jarmo Kekalainen is not looking at this as, well, we've made the playoffs, that's good, let's build for the long term and we'll stand pat. This is a team that's aggressively chasing to try and get better for the playoffs. And I know I talked on Monday about how I thought they would probably stick to just supporting moves, things to fill in the depth on this team. Parayko is not that. Parayko is a first, second pair defenseman that will immediately make your team a whole lot better, I think. And I think if you're a Sabres fan, there should be encouragement, fun, excitement that this is the path the Sabres are trying to follow. And the trade deadline is still 24 hours away. So there's still an opportunity for Buffalo to go out and find somebody else. This was already going to be a really, really fun spring in Buffalo for the Sabres. And I don't see any reason why Parayko saying no would change that. The other thing, too, just as a side, and I'll give credit to Joe DiBiase, who works at WGR, who posted this. The low first-round pick the Sabres were going to trade, there are not a whole lot of great players that have come out of the bottom of the first round, at least among traded picks. And some of that might be just dumb luck in terms of the team that added the pick. Maybe their scouting department isn't very good. If you're taking on a first-round pick, in general, you're a bad team, right? If we're only going to limit it to first-round picks that were exchanged at the trade deadline, the team that's adding the first-round pick is a bad team looking to build towards the future. Well, bad teams are going to make bad draft picks. So there's a little bias into the research there. But from the Sabres' point of view, the first-round pick next year, which is just about guaranteed to not be top half because they're making the playoffs and will probably be somewhere in the 20s, is the type of pick that's not that valuable. So go ahead and move it for a player if you see somebody out there that works for you. And again, it's Sneaky Joe DiBiase on X. If you want to go see the research, it was really good. In fact, I should just retweet it right now. I'll get them after the show. But this is I know that the trade, the Sabres being shot down here a little bit is frustrating. Let's see if anything has happened in the last hour or so. I don't think so. Yeah, it does not look like anything new has happened. But like I said, this is an encouraging thing for the Sabres. This is the right direction. This is fun. And I think with a brand new general manager, obviously the slate is clean. This first trade made sense. And it did feel a little on the aggressive side, but that's fine. That's fine. Go after it. There's no reason to approach the end of this season based on what's happened over the last 14 years, where making the playoffs is good enough. It will be good enough. If the Sabres go to the playoffs and lose in 4 games in the first round, this season will still be a gigantic win. Now, that would be disappointing, but it'll still be a win. But it doesn't mean that if you're Jarmo Kekalainen that you want to approach the trade deadline as if we've already won the season, we don't have to do anything. Go win a cup. This team can do that. Yeah, there are questions that we talked about on Monday. Questions about the goaltending, whether that will be good enough. Obviously, there's a playoff experience deficit this team will probably deal with going into the postseason. They can win a cup. The way they've played lately, the way they handled Tampa Bay over the weekend. Remember, that's the second time this year that the Sabres went into Tampa Bay in the second game of a back-to-back on the road and won the game. So the Sabres can handle whatever is going to be thrown at them. Making them better for this playoff run in whatever way you want to go on about doing it is probably the right way to approach it, even if you're going to overpay. Because this has been a team for a while that's had a pretty good farm system. I know the Amerks aren't playing too well this year, but you do have Isak Rosayan, who certainly looks like a guy that can ascend to the next level in the relative near future. You have a goalie down there that can play. There are things that still make this Sabres farm system pretty attractive. So if you want to move a piece off of it to make this team better at the NHL level, that's totally fine. So I know it's frustrating that Parayko said no, but I think end of the day, this is overall a positive sign for the general direction of the Buffalo Sabres. One more note today here. A fun thing for Rochester Bills fans. The announcement was made yesterday by Micah Hyde and his wife, Amanda Hyde, that they would not have the Bills charity softball game that they've been running the last 5 years this year in Buffalo. Now, the game is going to be moved to Rochester, which is great for those of us who live here. I'm really excited about this because this has been a fantastic event in Buffalo. The last 3 years, they've drawn 16,000 people each year. Now, obviously, you see the video. The weather was not great in Buffalo last year, so I think there were some no-shows. But they've had pretty good attendance for this event the last 3 years in Buffalo. And in Rochester, I don't see any reason why it would be different. Now, you hope the weather's good. June 7th is usually okay. You never know. But this should be a whole lot of fun for Bills fans in Rochester. And again, there'll be Bills fans who come from Buffalo down to see it. It's a great event. The guys are loose. Nobody's lost a game. Nobody's dropped a pass. Nobody's committed a penalty. As Keon Coleman pops up on the screen, perfect timing. So it makes this event super fun. Now, the Hydes did mention that one of the reasons, or the reason that the game is going to be in Rochester is because they apparently, via some legal issue through, they said, a third-party partnership, they lost the rights to be in charge of the game. So Greg Rousseau is going to be the official host of the game this year. And it's unfortunate because the Hydes are a great couple when it comes to community involvement. Micah Hyde's been one of the better dudes I've ever dealt with in a Bills locker room. So the fact that they're out of the game, at least from a hosting part of view, is very unfortunate. And I think Greg Rousseau will be a fine ambassador. He'll handle that just great. But they didn't explain in the press release about why the game was moved to Rochester. Those of us in Rochester, I don't think, care very much. It'll be Buffalo's loss, but it'll be our gain. That's awesome. But it is a little weird and unnerving about how this came about from the Hyde point of view. The Hyde said that they want to make sure that the charitable donation remains high. They want to make sure people still have a good time, and that this apparently was the best way to go about it. Again, I don't know why moving the game to Rochester was a part of that, but I don't care. This has been something, I'll be honest, I've been a little jealous of, that Buffalo has this. And not that it's a surprise. It's a Buffalo team. It should be a Buffalo community event. It makes a lot of sense. But it was really cool from afar to watch Buffalo come together and to have a game, to raise some money, to see the heroes from the football team that Buffalo roots for in a much more looser environment. Everything, it seemed like one of the really, really high-level community events. And for it to now be in Rochester and to maybe pull this community together for a day, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this would be like, to covering it, talking to the guys, and seeing how Rochester turns out for this game. I imagine it'll be a great response. This town has showed you with training camp year after year after year that they know how to put on a pretty, or to give Bills fans and the Bills a very warm reception. So I don't think this will be any different when it comes to this charity softball game. And even if the circumstances are a little head-scratching, it's certainly unfortunate that a very community-minded and generous couple like Micah and Amanda Hyde were somehow pushed out in this game. But if the answer for us here in Rochester is that we get to host it, we get to see the fun, the guys being loose, get the autograph opportunities, to me, that's a huge win for Rochester. And I'm very confident that if you're a Bills fan or someone from Buffalo, listening to the sound of my voice right now, if you want to make the trip down to Rochester, you will not regret it. ESL Ballpark, used to be called Frontier Field, great venue, will be super fun for this, all kinds of great sight lines. Hopefully the weather's good. Obviously, you never know with Western New York, as we saw in the video from last year, but I'm very encouraged that this will be a good time for everybody here in Rochester and anyone who wants to come from out of town to see this game happen. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of the show. Looking forward to more talk about DJ Moore. By the way, we will have more for sure on BKL Nightly tonight. It'll be me and Rachel Liebert and Caleb Carr. Probably the entire show will be about DJ Moore and the upshot from that. So we will talk about that for sure tonight on Rochester First at 8:30. I will be back again with you on Monday. We'll talk about what the Sabres eventually do at the trade deadline, and free agency, at least the legal tampering period, will be underway Monday afternoon. So I'm sure I'll have lots to think about, lots to react to when it comes to what happens in the NFL in those first few hours of free agency. Thanks again for watching today. This is Rochester First. The kids call it Rock One, and I'll see you again on Monday.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.